I have the Dancing Wings Hobby Pitts 450 3D biplane. If you watched our initial review of this plane, you'll know that I discovered I had a bad aileron servo. I could actuate the aileron, it would move the ailerons, and as soon as I got to the maximum extent of the movement of the servo, then it would just drop. It would just drop and go back to its neutral position. So I couldn't even get more than a single roll out of the plane when I was testing it. And it made it very difficult to get a good test flight with it when the aileron servo was as flaky as it was. So I have replaced the aileron servo, and it looks like this one is going to work. So some of the specs on this plane, it has a micro receiver, and it's a bind and fly kit, and it comes in 3 or 4 different protocols. Now the one that I have is DSM2 DSMX, and this little receiver has a built-in 7 amp brushless ESC. It's designed specifically for a 2S setup. It has 1.7 gram servos for the elevator and the rudder, and a 2 gram servo for the ailerons. It has an 1106 3800 kV brushless motor, and it came with one of those prop saver hubs with the little O-ring to hold the prop on, and it came with a 50-30 prop, a full-size 50-30 ABS prop. It looked like a typical Gemfan ABS 50-30 prop. And it seemed like when I was conducting the review of this plane that it was a little underpowered. Well, I did the review of this before I had reviewed the Racerstar BR1206 4500 kV motor on a 2S power setup. And one of the props I tested it with was the HQ5030 prop, which is what I reviewed this plane with, which was the HQ T-mount 5030 prop. I didn't like the prop saver setup. It just didn't seem to hold it centered. So I opted for a T-mount prop. Well, after reviewing the Racerstar BR1206 4500 kV motor with different size props, my pick on a 2S setup with that motor was the KINGKONG LDARC 3830 ABS prop. It had the best balance of thrust and efficiency. So my feeling was that the 1206 4500 kV, my pick for that motor was not the T-mount, the HQ T-mount 5030 prop. And it's 1 millimeter larger diameter than this 1106, which means that gives it a little bit more torque. But the 1106 is a 3800 kV motor, and the 1206 was a 4500 kV. Typically, the lower the kV, the greater the torque on the motor. So I'm guessing that this 1106 3800 kV and the 1206 4500 kV are probably pretty close in the amount of torque that they provide, with the 1106 being a lower kV. So I removed the 5030 prop and installed the Gemfan Hurricane 4024 prop. And my hope is that the Gemfan Hurricane 4024 prop will provide better thrust and efficiency on this 1106 3800 kV motor than the HQ5030 prop, which may be why it felt underpowered. I think that this motor was probably a little over-propped. So we're going to take it out and we're going to test it with the new servo that I have installed for the ailerons, and this one is working. And we're also going to test out the power on this motor now that I have a smaller prop on it. I'm betting that this is going to give me better thrust and efficiency than the 5030 prop did. So, I don't like things left undone. So I just didn't have time. I had other things that were higher priority than messing with this plane. So Now that I've set aside time to get this thing repaired, set back up, put back in the air, let's take it out and throw it and in the air and launch it and see how it flies now, what kind of performance we get out of this motor. I'll see you out at the field.
All right, I have the Dancing Wings Hobby Pitts 450 3D biplane. Let's see if I did good or if I did bad. I have a hot air balloon crew behind me over here, but we'll keep it away from them. So let's go ahead and launch and see what we have. Going to be different flying it with a good aileron servo. Ooh, that is a good aileron servo. Oh yeah, how about that? Keep it out of the sun. I can't tell if it's got any more power or not. Let's try that again. Doesn't seem to have. Now, one thing you have to do with these 3D planes, and I have a hard time doing, is staying out of the throttle, because they do not like to fly fast. They get erratic that way. Backing out of the throttle. Right in the sun. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it has any more power with this prop than it had with the 5x3. I might try a 3830 on it yet. It definitely cannot pull vertical with this 1106 3800 kV motor. Now my BR, awesome rolls. My BR, Racerstar BR 1206 4500 kV motor on a 2S with the KINGKONG LDARC. 3830 prop puts out 173 grams of thrust. That would give this plane that weighs 75 grams all up weight, with the battery that I'm using, would give it about a 2.4 to 1 thrust to weight ratio. And so it should have unlimited vertical. I just don't think this 1106 3800 kV motor, it just has enough torque to spin the prop fast enough. Pretty cool though, huh? Backing out of the throttle. Backing out of the throttle. Right over my head. Well, these 3D planes are so maneuverable, it's hard to get used to. I can definitely do double rolls with it now. It's hard to track this plane. I hope I'm getting it all on the video, in the video frame. And it requires quite a bit of rudder for turns. Isn't that awesome? Okay. Let's bring it in. See if we can plop it down. Okay, so the repairs are good. Obviously the aileron servo that I put in there is working just great. You can just spin it on the rolls again and again and again. So no problem there. The balance for the 3D plane feels pretty good. I've got my battery pulled all the way forward and sideways to get enough weight at the front. So my recommendation for this plane, I'll give you an updated recommendation on it, is get some decent digital servos, 1.7 gram servo for the elevator and rudder, 2 gram servo for the aileron, digital, not analog. And my recommendation for the motor would be that Racerstar BR 1206 4500 kV with a with a KINGKONG LDARC 3830 T-mount ABS prop. That will give you unlimited vertical on this plane, which is really what you need for a 3D plane. My recommendation for any 3D plane is make sure you have at least a 2-to-1 thrust to weight ratio if you want to do a lot of cool 3D stuff, including hovering it. So this one with the stock motor is definitely underpowered. I do like the receiver. The receiver is a tiny little receiver, and it has a built-in 7 amp brushless speed controller. So I'm probably going to pick up a couple more of those for different projects on down the road. But that's my recommendation. It's a fun little plane. I really like the airframe. I think that it's just underpowered with the stock power system. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.